Thank you, everyone. Councillors and visitors, please also remember to switch your electronic devices to silence. We'll now welcome everybody. Welcome to those members in the gallery, and also welcome to our viewers who will be watching the meeting via the live stream from their homes. I'll now ask if you could all please be upstanding, and Deputy Mayor Migdale, could you please read out the opening prayer?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name.
Amen. Councillor Olo, could you please read out the acknowledgement of country?
Thank you. On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wodja people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respects for elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. You can take your seats, please. Without prior approval, any recording of the meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the city being received. Item 1 of the meeting is the official opening. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the council meeting of the 13th of February 2024 open at 6:32 p.m. Item 2, apologies, I have nil. 3, approved leave of absence, I have nil. 4, disclosure of interest. Disclosures from the Community and Resource Committee meeting held on the 30th of January 24 are listed in tonight's agenda and also displayed on the screen behind me. There were no disclosures from the Planning and Development Committee held on the 6th of February. For the council meeting this evening, Councillor Rob Papard has disclosed an impartial interest in item 12.1 FPA1 as he is a Scarborough Rotary Director and Board Member. The CEO, Mr Stephen Roddick, disclosed a financial interest in item 13.2 as a report centres around the recruitment process for the position of CEO. I've also received a disclosure from Damien Judici. Item 12.1 ES2 for Beaufort Streets, an impartial interest as he was the lead petitioner way back when. And Councillor Stephanie Proud on 12.1 RL something. The Doubleview Bowling Club one. Sorry, Councillor. Impartial as she is social member of the club. Councillors, are there any other disclosures? Councillor Judici?
Yeah, an impartial interest.
Just stand up, thanks.
For
Just stand up, Councillor.
Oh, sorry, apologies. Impartial interest for the Scarborough car park as an employee of Development WA. I did have that at the previous meeting, but I didn't make it known this time around.
Councillor Dudek?
I have a financial interest in item 12.1 TE3, which I did disclose at the committee meeting, if that's available.
They were listed up. They were the ones that were listed up.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Yep. There, so that's already there. No others at this time. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, petitions now. Item 5.1, Councillor Kristovich, would you like to table the petition on the public safety upgrades and paving to the laneway?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. The following petition containing 6 verified signatures has been received by the City. We, the undersigned, do respectfully request that the Council provide a fully paved, safe lane to the southern boundary of the Scarborough Primary School. The lane runs east to west between Hinderwell Street and Deemore Road. Construction works have finalised on the lane at the school with boundary fences installed. Chromite Lane West and Woburn Lane East of the lane in question have been fully paved and speed humps, curbing and drainage for a number of years. Currently the lane is rough, corrugated and dusty, safety hazard with no warning signs or traffic control, inadequate drainage, no lighting and is hazardous for all forms of pedestrian or vehicular traffic. Abutting the lane are a mix of pedestrian and vehicle access ratepayers, some having contributed bonds to council for upgrades to the lane, which represents a substantial financial outlay for the ratepayer within any appreciable benefit. A recent accident on the east end footpath on Deemore Road highlights the urgent need for the lane and approaches to be made safer. We would like to see the lane paved and made less hazardous substantially sooner than current timing of 2030. A paved lane would lower maintenance to ratepayers and school staff. We would like to see a paved lane with curbing, drainage and speed humps for traffic control, stop signs, local traffic signs. Other safety items may include traffic mirrors, rumble strips, hooped bollards to paths and visual trenches maintained at lane approaches.
Thank you, councillor Kristovich. Item 5.2, councillor Hatton, would you like to table your petition on the Lake Gwelup?
It's going to be Councillor Perkoff, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, councillor Perkoff.
We were fighting over it, you know. So the following e-petition containing 9 verified signatures was submitted to the City, and it reads, "We, the undersigned, do respectfully request that the Council install additional public toilet facilities on the eastern side of Lake Gwelup, nearby the Rotunda and the Colin Moore Resource Centre. This may be through one self-cleaning toilet similar to that at Morris Place Shopping Centre. The regional open space is heavily used by people of all ages. However, the only current toilets are on the western side of the lake, near the tennis courts and the oval. The distance and time to reach these may be challenging for people with children, ambulant restrictions and other park users, including older residents. This is a public health consideration, and Council is asked to take it seriously." Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any unverified petitions for this evening? If not, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept those petitions? Moved Deputy Mayor Migdal and seconded Councillor Ferrante. If you can just show of hands, if we can just get that done now. Sorry, I just need Councillor Giudice. Thank you, and that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 6, responses to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice, and all PQTs responses from the last council meeting were published in the minutes of that meeting. That brings us to public question time. We have a few questions for this evening, so we'll go to the first one on the list and ask you, Mr. Gary Phillips, to come forward. Sorry, just if you can, once you get there, if you can just press the bottom right-hand button there and the light will come on. And if you can start by stating your name, which obviously isn't Gary, apologies.
Gillian Mullins.
And just your suburb.
Chewett Hill.
Thank you. And if you start with your first question.
Well, first I'd like to say good evening to the Mayor and the Council members, and thank you for having me. I refer to an incident on the 18th of December last year, where my dog was attacked at the Yokine Tree Reserve. My question firstly is, are the rangers aware of the Freedom of Information application, as they were unaware when I asked about it?
We can check. I'll go to Mr. Mullins just to check, and then I can get an answer from a Manager of Governance if you like.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. Yes, the Rangers are aware of the Freedom of Information request.
So yes, and I'll get an update for you from a Manager of Governance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to the question, we're obviously aware and processing a Freedom of Information application. It is well within the 45-day statutory timeframe for processing a Freedom of Information application, and the City has continued to keep Mr. Phillips updated on the progress of the FOI claim.
I'd also like to point out a couple of photographs of the dog attack, and I'd like them to be passed around as well.
Thank you.
It was quite a severe dog attack. Question 2, I'd like to know what is the process when a dog is attacked and the ranger attends to the dog attack?
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
And by the way, no relation.
That's we gathered.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. When a dog attack is reported to the City Rangers will endeavour to attend. As I understand it, City Rangers did attend this particular instance within around 20 minutes, and then the process there is to conduct an investigation in accordance with the provisions of the Dog Act, which is interview people, obtain statements, and then determine an outcome, and that outcome could be to take no action, that outcome could be to issue an infringement notice known as a modified penalty, or that action could be to refer the matter for a prosecution in the Magistrates Court.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we weren't given taken a statement from us, unfortunately. We had to provide one on our own merits. Question 3, what is the point of the Freedom of Information application when you actually won't give out the information of the third parties without their permission?
Thank you for that. Manager of Governance, Mr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the question. The City has obligation under the Freedom of Information Act to make information available to the public and also to protect the private information of third parties. all applications are assessed against the provisions of the Act, and information that can be released will be released.
Okay. Thirdly, your website says that you take all dog attacks seriously. You were given all of the evidence, and yet we found, unfortunately, that a $400 fine was insignificant in comparison to what has happened to our dog, and the amount of money that we've had to spend on our dog to get our dog fixed, and it's still ongoing.
Thank you, Ms Mullins. And look, obviously dog attacks are distressing, and I gather that from having a
It's
chat
our
to you.
family.
Yes, and I gather that. The Dog Act is very prescriptive in the way it is not only prescribed but also acted on by rangers. But it sounds like this is probably a little bit more in depth than we're going to get out at a council meeting as well. So whilst you've had your 3 questions, if I can offer that Mr Mullins will make contact after this meeting
Please do.
and maybe have a sit down with you and go through all of those to provide some comfort in the process, etc.
Yeah, we would appreciate that. And thank you for your time, Councillor and Mayor.
Thank you. Mr Mitchell. Welcome back, Mr Mitchell.
Yes, welcome, Mayor.
Just a name and
I
suburb to
picked
start.
up the wrong one.
Oh, you got more than one. Oh. Just name and suburb, Mr
Yes.
Mitchell.
Good evening, Mayor. Robert Mitchell, Karrinyup. Good evening, councillors, council officers and fellow people in the gallery. Mayor, I'd written to you about an issue regarding Councillor Ree, and quoting, I might say, a generic statement regarding the moral rectitude of people arriving in Australia, or for that matter, anywhere. And Councillor Ree, I am led to believe, made that homily on her private Facebook reference. I'm informed that Councillor Ree did not use or conjure or write any identification of her as a councillor or reference any motive of the City of Stirling in that passage of regurgitated thought. Suresh Rajan, a publicly known blogger and muckraker of anything racial, lodged a complaint with the City of Stirling where you took it upon yourself to carry his complaint verbatim to the press, along with the comment from Mr Suresh Rajan, absolutely out of context to what Councillor Ree published. It is absolutely positive to state that the reply in concert with Suresh Rajan has no
question would
substance,
be good, Mr Mitchell.
not only of inferred racism, but no business of the City of Stirling or you, Mayor, taking the matter on board on behalf of ratepayers of the City of Stirling. And I ask you, sir, Mayor, would you apologise to Councillor Ree, then ensure that the integrity of the City of Stirling is reviewed and assured, along with risk management policy, that the ratepayers and electors of the City of Stirling have no embrace of this type of manufactured slur on anybody.
Thank you for that statement and question, Mr Mitchell. I can't agree with your full statement. I certainly did not take it upon myself to regurgitate anything of Mr Rajesh. Sorry, what's his name? Rajesh Suresh Rajan. Sorry, because I do not know who it is. The only contact I had was the media contacting me. I don't think I made any judgment. I think my actual comment was along the lines of people will make their own judgment on that. My job as the mayor is to take on board the community context of it and also to uphold the values of the city, which is exactly what I did.
So,
it is in print, Mr Mitchell.
in reference to this, in your
Let's go to the second question.
involvement in this, you're not prepared to apologise. Is that correct?
I have nothing to apologise for, Mr Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll leave it at that and let other people judge.
Exactly. The
Right.
second question.
Yes. Mayor and councillors, I draw your attention to the long-running matter of parking signage on the perimeter of the verges around the Karrinyup Shopping Centre, whereupon the owner management of this shopping centre took it upon themselves to install electronic display plinths, metal plinths, on the verge without any authority from the City of Stirling or any other state government body having any authority to do so. I asked the question at the previous council meeting about their presence and was told the city was giving temporary approval for them whilst the matter of them in situ would remain until this meeting in February, where a decision on their existence was to be made prior. I now request an answer on the decision. If before over the last years, no insurance on them, no public liability or risk management considered. In fact, any accident or event involving them happened, the City of Stirling would be open to sole liability without any type of risk management protection in place. Mayor, as you know, being at the plinth in Davenport Street 2 years ago with me, you made the statement that they were illegally placed. If the City of Stirling makes some type of permission for them to remain, then any building verge or car yard has the ability to carry out similar advertising plinths anywhere. Please provide the City of Stirling ruling on their existence now.
Thank you. Ms Shears.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Mitchell, for the question. You're correct. So the temporary approval that the city gave for those structures to be in the verge was due to expire on the 7th of February this year. They did lodge an application with the city to have a general permit for those structures to remain in place. Officers considered that application and have conditionally approved that. So what that conditional approval means is the issues you raise around insurance and things like that, that resolves that particular issue. The city still has the ability to revoke that approval at any point in time. So that's still city land, but investigations and discussions with our engineering and our community safety teams found that we didn't have any complaints during that time that they were temporarily approved in place, and we have now approved them in place.
You have no approval in place.
The approval is in place.
And there is an approval in place. Is there insurance in place? Is there risk management in place?
There is an approval in place, Mr Mitchell. So your third question, please.
Mayor, I asked, is there insurance in place?
The city is insured and AMP Capital is insured.
The city's not sure.
The city is insured, Mr Mitchell.
And that verge, if any accident or incident
We are
happened
comfortable.
there,
We are comfortable with the approval in
You're
place.
comfortable with it.
Yes, Mr Mitchell.
And
Can we have the third
could
question?
I ask, are these plinths going to be a permanent feature there?
We have the third question. Yes, Mr Mitchell.
Okay. My third question. Has any progress been made to reduce the current 50-kilometre-hour speed limit in Davenport and approved speed limit signage placed? The situation with plinths objecting and speed in this congested street is a recipe for an incident and/or an accident.
Mr Rodich.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Mitchell, thanks for the question. The 40-kilometre zone limit has been in place since October last year along parts of Burrows Road, Francis Avenue and Davenport Street. They're adjacent to the shopping centre and they will remain there permanently.
Thank you, Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mitchell.
That's my questions. Thank you.
Mr Hadley, you're next. I believe you're asking on behalf of someone. If you'd whichever ones you want to start with, if you can.
Yes, good evening, Roland Hadley. Welcome all. I'm asking on behalf of one Janita Cottam from Careen, who cannot be here today because she's looking after a sick horse. She asks, $2,000 was paid to the Doubleview House on the 21st of December. Where is the Doubleview House and what was the payment for?
Thank you. Doubleview House is in Doubleview on Scarborough Beach Road, but I'll see if Ms Hawkins has the payment details.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry, Mr Hadley, I don't have that at hand. I'll respond to you in writing.
Thank you.
And Mr Hadley, just before you move on, sorry to interrupt you. Public question time's been going for 15 minutes, so just in line with meeting rules, I'll just extend public question time to allow further questions to take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 2. Similarly, Trig Island Surf Club was generously paid $74,126. For what purpose did the city ratepayers pay for this?
Thank you. Mr Cameron, do you want to explain those?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr Hadley, for the question. That payment to Trig Island Surf Lifesaving Club is a payment to one of 2 surf clubs in the city, and it relates to the services that provide for volunteer surf lifesaving patrols throughout the summer.
That's it?
Yes, so surf lifesaving clubs generally with most local government authorities, because they provide consistent volunteer lifesaving services, have a service level agreement as a commitment and as a signed agreement to provide services and certain hours. So the city is aware when the beaches are patrolled and the city provides a contribution towards that.
Thank you. Question 3. She noted on the 13th of December, the city paid Major Motors $1,186,632 for vehicle parts and repairs. Over 1 million seems a lot of parts. She asked, is this a regular transaction and what is it actually for?
Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And thanks, Mr Hadley. The purchase was actually for 3 large side loaders, and I have asked the accounts payable team to update their categories so we ensure we show that as vehicle purchase in the future.
I think we requested that update about 2.5 years ago, did we not?
And we did update. I appreciate we talked about, Mr Hadley, others, but certainly that one will ensure it's corrected in the system.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now your questions, Mr Hadley.
Roland Hadley, Woodlands. Instead of the council squandering time, money and resources on that futile trackless tram fiasco and $90,000 apparently to light up a clock tower in Scarborough, my question is, will the council allocate a minimum of 14 to 18 million from either the $100 million held in the reserve fund, 113 in the municipal fund, or 31 million in the trust fund to offset the annual rate charges, particularly when some ratepayers are experiencing financial stress?
Thank you for that, Mr Hadley, and that's obviously a decision that council will make during budget time. Thanks for asking about the trackless trams. It was actually a really big success, so we appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, that's your humble opinion, Mr Mayor.
Yes, it is, Mr Hadley. Your next question.
I asked on behalf of the Ewan Street Community Group on the 23rd of October full detailed costs relating to this now defunct trackless tram to nowhere. Details of expenditure by all parties regarding this $2 million federal grant and full costings within the minor works budget have never been cited. Could we expect a response?
Thank you. We'll respond to you in writing, Mr Hadley.
And part B of that question is, in addition, ratepayers have never cited the trackless tram report, as promised by the Mayor, Irwin, at a council meeting in October. Where is the accountability and transparency? Or should ratepayers simply forget about the thousands wasted on this wacky trackless tram project?
Thank you. Sorry, that was part B of the question, was it?
That was part B of the second question.
You will see the report, Mr Hadley. It hasn't been published yet.
Well,
question 3.
How long does it take to get the report out?
As long as all the experts take to finish writing it and give it to us, Mr Hadley.
Experts, yes. Question 3. For some reason, former CEO Stuart Jardine has been appointed advisor to the council. We asked the questions why, Who suggested this proposal? What was the position advertised? How many applicants were there? Who drafted the job description? What are the hours of employment? For how long is this employment? Is the former CEO, Mr. Jardine, now paid on consultant rates? Which is, we don't know. Why do ratepayers need an advisor to the council? Did former CEO, Mr. Jardine, require an advisor? Through the chair, I'm sure the governance officer will confirm that this appointment does not contravene local government regulations, but we look forward to this answer and others. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Hadley. The answer is quite simple. Mr. Stuart Jardine is still under contract as the CEO, but since we appointed a new CEO, he's still getting paid as a CEO until the end of his contract, but we can't have two CEOs in the organisation, so he has a different title.
Thank you.
It's not hard. Is there any other questions that I haven't got on my list here? If not, that brings us to the end of public question time. We'll move on to item 8, which is application for leave of absence. I have Neil. 9, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 5th of December 2023. Move Councillor Perkoff, seconded Councillor Olo. And it's just a show of hands to accept those minutes. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Announcements by the presiding member. I don't have any, but I will ask Councillor Kristovich if he can do an announcement relating to the International Canoe Federation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Last year, from the 30th of November 2023 to the 3rd of December 2023, the ICF Canoe Ocean Racing World Championships were held at Scarborough Beach. The City of Stirling joined Paddle Australia as the principal partner to help secure the 2023 International Canoe Federation Canoe Ocean Racing World Championships, and was the first time this event was held in the Southern Hemisphere with 26 countries competing. The City committed $120,000 in sponsorship and logistics support to the event organisers Paddle Australia. The Athletes Hub and finish line for the 20-kilometre ocean paddle race from Fremantle on 30th of November and Saturday 2nd of December was at Scarborough Beach. I am pleased via my assistant to display this framed certificate and trophy presented to the City from Paddle Australia and the International Canoe Federation in recognition of the City's contribution and commitment to the 2023 Ocean Racing World Championships. The event was a huge success for competitors, spectators and local businesses.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kristovich. And can I also just thank all the events team and the staff who were involved in that, in enabling it. It really was a fantastic event at an international standard. Give it a clap. Yeah. Item 11 is unresolved business. We have nil. Now we move on to item 12, which is reports and recommendations of committees. We'll now deal with items from the Community and Resource Committee meeting first. No alternative recommendations were provided today for any of the CRC items. Item 12.1 TE3 is required to be pulled out due to a financial disclosure. Councillors, do you wish to pull any other items out? Councillor Dudek?
Yes, I'd like to pull out 12.1 FPA1, and there was an alt-rec provided.
Thank you.
I think it's on the run sheet.
Yep, FPA1. Is there any other indications? Councillor Ree? Yep. 12.1 RL1. 12.1 ES2, we will also pull out as Councillor Giudice has declared. Councillor Lagan?
Yeah, I'll take that item.
Sorry, Councillor Lagan, were you pulling an item out?
Yeah, I'd like to pull out 12.1 ES2.
Okay, yep. Got it. Same one. So there's no other indications. We will move on to these items, and I will start with that one, 12.1 ES2, and ask Councillor Giudice if he'd like to. Oh, was only an impartial. Okay, just got you. All right, notice that Councillor Giudice has now left the chamber, so we'll go to you, Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I want to move the officer's recommendation. It was moved out committee. There was some communication today from a member of the public and there was some discussion about some data. The officers at the city have responded to that. And in the conclusion of the report on page 25, it does state that the trial has been successful in reducing travel costs.
Thanks, councillor. There's no debate on this, so we just,
Okay, that's fine.
And councillor Meekdale's happy to second it. Is there anyone opposed to this? If not, I will put that item to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll invite Councillor Giudice back in. And apologies for not going to you, Councillor Perkoff, as chair of the committee. I was out of practice.
You're forgiven, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Giudice is now back in the chamber. We have item 12.1 RL1 as chair of the committee. Councillor Perkoff.
Yes, I'll hand that over to Councillor Ree, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ree.
Thank you, Councillor Perkoff. I'd like to support the recommendation on page 28, please. However, with the addition that that the council considers also the on page, where are we? Sorry, on page 30, that the bowling lighting upgrades and the bowling green conversion and the building upgrades be considered as a matter of priority, because they actually, it's going to be, according to this report, it's going to be they'll be 70 years old by the time we fix it, and it's been on the agenda, I think, for at least 15 years to get an upgrade, and things that keep pushing it back and pushing it back. But if they're going to try to get the championships, which is supported by the staff, then we needed to get the upgrades done more of a priority, and it can be as a priority and listed in the budget 2023. So if you like, number 2, just add it to number 2.
No, I don't think it is an addition at all. I think it's entirely different. So, councillor, what I will do before we, so that's the motion you want to move. 1 and 2 have been supported previously at committee. Can I just get Mr Cameron to provide some information? My concern, the reason I'm saying it's significantly different is $10,000 on a mid-year budget review is very different to lighting upgrades, green conversions, and a whole building upgrade just to be considered at a budget review. Mr Cameron, is there any plans for this?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the timing of the application for CSRFF annual grants would mean if the bowling greens were put forward as part of that process, that would get considered by council September this year. We'd have an outcome on that by February 2025, with the money to be spent for the bowling green conversion in 25-26. The lighting project has already been successfully funded through the state, so that work can proceed immediately once the budget review is adopted. And the building project, as it is with many others, and gets prioritised based on need, asset condition, and a number of other factors yearly on an annual basis as part of the budget process.
Thank you for that comment. However, it is actually written in the report that it will be considered on page 30, the upgrade, but the upgrade is 27-28. The motion, there has been, I put up several motions over the years for it to be upgraded, and some of it was stopped because of amalgamation, stopped because they got asbestos in the ceiling.
Sure, so let me get you a
So
sec.
I'm asking for it to be considered.
Yes, yeah, you've put it up as a motion, so that's all right. I'll just, if I can, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Prout.
Mr Mayor, I'm very positively happy to support 1 and 2. I think the third one should be mentioned as in a future budget, as in 24, 25, etc.
So, Councillor Ree, are you prepared to have that in a future budget?
No, I think it should go in this budget. I'm not quite sure how things, we have a strategic plan and then things change and hop in.
Well, that's what you're trying to do, Councillor.
No, this has been on the books for years.
Councillor, Mr Cameron has just said that it's on the project, and then you've said it's on a future budget, and now you're trying to put it on this budget.
Exactly, because it has been on a past budget and has been put by this
So it's not up for debate yet.
several times.
So the only way we can get this up is, Councillor Prout, are you prepared to to second all of these so we can get it open for debate?
Only 1 and 2. I think that's wise. Look, if it makes a difference to going to debate, happy to do number 3.
Well, otherwise we just...
I just think it will fall over.
So if there's no one, first of all, I'll check if there's anyone prepared to second this as a whole motion. Otherwise, I'll go back to the committee chair to move the committee recommendation. So is anyone who'd like to second this as 1, 2 and 3? No. So I'll go back to the committee chair and ask you to move the committee recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the committee original recommendation on page 28.
Thank you. Councillor Proud will second that. Councillor Ree, if you'd like to, you're welcome to now oppose and debate it if you'd like. So it's up to you, yes? So Councillor Ree will oppose it. So Councillor Perkoff?
Nothing to add at this time, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Proud?
No, straightforward.
Thank you. Councillor Ree?
Thank you.
That gives you an opportunity. Now you can speak to it.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
It's disappointing when you look at how many things are across the city. Some of these bowling clubs are really old and they struggle. They don't need another cohort of sporting clubs coming into their turf and then all of a sudden getting the money. We've got one lot of money and the way it's being divided doesn't seem to be fair according to the people that have rung me. People that have... Doubleview Bowling Club is one of the most successful bowling clubs in the city of Stirling. They haven't asked for much over the years. When I first put this motion up, I think it was in about 2009. And then we had the amalgamation, so it got pushed aside. We can't put money on Doubleview, it could go to Cambridge. Then we had the ceiling fall in because of the asbestos. Oh, we can't fix it up because we need to band-aid it because it will cost too much to fix up. Well, it should have been fixed up the first time the roof fell in about, I don't know, 30 years ago, whenever the first time it fell in. But that wasn't. Another band-aid. So every time something goes on, it doesn't get the money. And right next door at Bennett Park, the rugby comes from nowhere, and all of a sudden that building's upgraded, and yet that was put up to be upgraded. The bowling club was put up to be upgraded in Doubleview, and the people at Doubleview were saying, well, what do we get for our rates? We have very little facilities in the Doubleview ward. We don't have a library. We don't have a swimming pool. You know, we don't have these. All we do is have a few bowling clubs and that, and they're saying, what are we putting up with? And I'm saying, well, I keep putting up to put a motion up to get the Doubleview Bowling Club back on the budget, and it doesn't seem to go anywhere. And when I look at $10,000 in comparison to a lot of spent in other people's wards and people who can get 2 brand new buildings in one reserve, and yet we can't even get one really fixed up properly. And there have been so many issues with the Butler Reserve, the Bennett Park one anyway, the rugby one, that's another issue. But they're not asking for a lot, and it should be upgraded. You know, it should be a priority of the city. Then we have somebody comes in, a parliamentarian comes in and says, right, I'll give you $300,000 to fix up a park. Then all of a sudden our strategic plan goes nowhere because we then have to match whatever a politician says. That's not the way we should be running a business, and that's not the way we should be spending ratepayers' money. We owe it to them. We're on the books tonight is sitting there supporting an annual report which includes our strategic plan, our corporate strategic plan, and yet we don't follow it. I listened to a great speech by someone regarding the MRC strategic plan, how none of the things were even followed. And I thought, how does that happen? Where's our accountability? Where's our probity? This was years ago, not recent.
Point of order, Mr Mayor, this is just going right off track, I'm sorry.
I think it is, and I'd be careful what you say about the MRC.
Well, I know, I was on it, but I was saying the speech that was made years ago, which I thought was interesting. Why aren't we checking what we're saying in strategic plans and making them come to fruition? That's the connection, Councillor. I just feel that some of these clubs have been waiting for so long. All I was doing was asking it to be considered. I know that's difficult around the table. I know everyone has their own agendas. People outside have their own agendas. But we somehow have to come back to reality and what we're here for. And we're here for local people. We're not supposed to be here for the politics of who gets what and then siding together. You know, that's not what we're here for. Our priority is supposed to be for the community and who needs it the most. And some of our old buildings, they only need to be maintained. They're not asking to be a Taj Mahal. They're not pushing by some residents to say, we want a great big brand new one. All they're asking for is some upgrades, not major things. Putting in a kids area playground, fixing up the footpath that keeps breaking. They're not asking for a lot. But when you look at it from a point of view, of an OSH point of view, when we did the audit of asbestos, all those buildings should have been fixed up, and yet they weren't. So, you know, the hazards are still there. We're supposed to be responsible, and we're not going anywhere.
30 seconds, Councillor.
Well, I'm just saying that I think it's a priority to sit there and say that our buildings need to be prioritised. And the people that have been in our community for 70 years looking after a building should be our priority, and the respect should be given to them.
Thank you. Councillor, would you like to foreshadow the number 3? Yeah. Yep. So let's foreshadow that there is a number 3. So if this is lost, we can go back to that motion. Is there anyone else who'd like to debate this item? Councillor Perkoff, would you like to close the item?
I would like to, Mr Mayor. And I'm sympathetic to Councillor Ree's concerns here, and I'm sure everyone around the table is absolutely sympathetic. And we don't have our agendas to that effect as what I think was alluded to. I'm happy to go with this. Look, Councillor Ree was at the committee meeting when this was voted on, points 1 and 2. That was unanimous. She was one of the votes that accepted this. So this last minute sort of just drop out of the sky. Look, I'm not sure that I'd like to support this at this point in time.
Thank you. That does close debate. So we're voting on the committee recommendation, which is 1 and 2 that you see printed. So I'll put that to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. I'll now go to item 12.1 FPA1, which is Scarborough Ground Light Installation. Councillor Dudek has pulled it out, but I'll go to you, Councillor Perkoff, for the recommendation.
Is this 12.1 FPA1, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to hand this over to...
Sorry, I've just got to check this. So your role as committee chair is to put forward the committee recommendation.
Sure,
so it's just if there's an alternative recommendation.
Absolutely, I believe there is an alt rec.
But that's not the committee recommendation. Your role is to put the committee recommendation
forward. So I would like to put through the committee recommendation on page 41. This item was discussed at great length on the evening.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
I will give Councillor Dudek, I'm not aware of your alternative, so if it's just a simple addition, you can second it with your addition, and we'll just see if Councillor Perkoff will accept it. So there it is. So are you happy to do that?
Happy with that.
So Councillor Perkoff, I'll ask you now if you're happy to accept that as an addition. We'll do it that way.
Just have a quick
because I don't think it changes the intent of it. It was discussed at committee. It was just that a policy be drafted and presented to council regarding the permitted use of the lighting prior to the causes of events being supported.
I like that, Mr Mayor. I'll support that. Thank you.
It was the intent of committee. It was talked about, so I'm happy that that's still the same intent. So we'll just make that the substantive motion. Is there anyone opposed to this? Just a question, yes?
So I actually raised that point at committee. I was advised in writing that that we really didn't need a policy, but we were going to draft something. So
that was advised at committee, but
yes.
I believe Councillor Dudek wasn't happy with that, so he's put this forward. So it's just to formalise. You're right. It was, and that's what I said before. It was discussed at committee, and I think the general consensus was, yes, committee decided not to put it, but if you'd like to put it as point 2, it becomes point 2. So if there's no one opposed, I'll put that to the vote. Thank you. I've just got one more to go. I'm just trying to... Councillor Ree, your vote. Thank you. And that is carried with everyone voting for except Councillor Ferrante, who's voting against that. Now we'll now go over the page and we will go to item 12.1 T3. Councillor Dudek, I'll invite you to leave the chamber. Sure. So the only reason we've pulled this one out is because Councillor Dudek can't be involved in the vote. Just a reminder though, if someone does want to oppose this or debate it, then we will have to go behind closed doors. So I'll ask you, Councillor Perkoff, as Chair of the Committee, to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I move the committee recommendation on page 75?
You may. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Proud, is there anyone opposed? If not, I'll put that item to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Hold on, if we can get the councillor back in. Give Mr. Giamov. Thanks, Councillor. And I'll now go to Councillor Perkoff as the Chair of the Community and Resource Committee, if you would like to move the balance of reports for me.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move the balance of the reports from the committee. That's it.
Thank you. And Councillor Proud has seconded that, so I'll put that to the vote. Thank you. And that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, will now move to the items from the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Councillors, do you wish to pull any of these items out? Councillor Dudek?
Yes, I'd like to pull out 12.2 CPS1.
Thank you. And are there any other items? No. In that case, I will go straight to that item and ask you, Councillor Proud, as Chair of the Committee, to move the motion.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Very happy to move the committee recommendation, page 41. Sorry, wrong one.
Yeah, 98.
Sorry, on page 98.
Thank you.
Item 1 and 2.
Yep. You done? Yep. Councillor Kristovich, you're happy to second that? Anyone opposed? Councillor Dudek. So we'll go to debate now. Councillor Proud.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Bear with me. I'll cover a number of items that we covered in committee. It was discussed for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. It was a very good debate and discussion. As everyone here knows, especially you, Mr Mayor, this site is a valuable city property asset and it will remain so. It's on our strategic property portfolio. If it's sold down the track, which it's an investment property, that would likely take 5 or more years to be realised for zoning, etc., 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 all the things that go through with selling land. So in the last couple of years, with government and City of Stirling funding, approximately $100 million has been invested in the Scarborough Beach precinct. It's incredibly popular. You drop $100 million into anywhere, it always becomes popular. It is the go-to place to be, and Scarborough Beach is often recognised as the best beach in WA. The main complaint, I could ask anyone on the street, what's the main complaint about Scarborough? It would be the lack of parking, for goodness sake. We hear about it day in, day out. Councillors would probably likely hear it as well. It's just been made even more popular with Deputy Mayor Migdale's motion that's now up and running, which is umbrellas for hire and sun lay boys on the beach, and the lockers that Councillor Kristovich put in. It's incredibly popular. It just makes it all that more accessible and easy and the place to visit. So we're all agreed that it's the parking is the major, what's the opposite of draw card?
Detractor.
Detractor of Scarborough. So, and the reason for that is we're encouraging people to walk and take public transport. However, that's not altogether possible for everybody, especially wider community from the wider areas. We also get many interstate and international visitors, and the City of Stirling have been, under the Mayor's vibrant manner, has pulled in a lot of events that come down there, which the Aussie Surf Lifesaving Championships, the recent canoe paddleboard, this brings in big money to the Scarborough and surrounding areas economically. So, a temporary car park. Is it worth spending what we're proposing to spend on a temporary car park? Let me remind everybody, as I reminded it was brought up at the Planning and Committee meeting, there's a temporary car park at the Stirling train station, the northern side of Cedric Street. Now that's been in, I think, for at least 10 years. And it is likely to be in there in another 10 or 20 years. So it's City of Stirling land, it's still a car park, it's getting valuably used as a car park. It is much needed. Nothing's more needed down at Scarborough than more car parking. So this car park is around 400 metres walking distance from the car park along the Esplanade to the Scarborough Central, if you want to call it that, where all the events happen. Makes it very easy. You can also get out of there very quickly onto West Coast Drive or however the parking's structured on Brighton. What better use to do than having a dust bowl there right now that's not getting used? I mean, this was adopted by Council in 2019. That had to be reminded a few times. This has been brought forward because it sort of got lost off the radar there. But it was endorsed back then. We've had a number of workshops, meetings and information. Look at the timeline in the agenda. It's all there. We've actually covered off on, we have spoken about this to death. The landscaping. There was some conjecture and questions about it. That has been amply explained on the memo that we all got. And out of the 4 options, number 1 and number 2 can't be considered anyway because they're not compliant with the planning guidelines of the area. So what we're looking at is a functional, practical car park for however long it takes. We will have landscaping because we have to, and reading the memo...
That's time, Councillor, so if you can wrap it up or if you need longer.
Okay, 30 seconds. What we're proposing is...
Well, in that case, just so we follow meeting procedures, I will rule to extend by 30 seconds to allow you to finish.
Okay, make it 45. You've taken up most
Remembering
of
you
that
get to
30
finish,
seconds.
thank you.
Okay. We're talking about small plant species that are coastal species. They won't need to be, well, yes, they can be removed if that site is sold in the future easily, won't get any pushback from the community. We're talking landscaping as it stands, and then it will be compliant with the planning design guidelines. Fully support this, and I hope you all do too. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Kristovich next.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd like to endorse everything that Councillor Proud said, but look, this decision today is not about whether we're going to build this car park or not, because we've already made that decision. We've already agreed we're going to build it. That was made initially on the 28th of November 2023. All of the information that is currently available was available back then. That then went to a council meeting on the 5th of December 2023, and that was endorsed. So on the first meeting, 8-0 supported the car park being built. At the council meeting, it was 14-4-0 against for the car park being built. So that's done and dusted. We've already agreed on that. We've looked at the details. We've looked at the costings. Nothing's changed from that perspective. All this motion now that we're talking about is about the funding coming out of the public parking strategy reserve and also about the progressing with the design and planning requirements. Now, we know Scarborough is very busy, and we know parking has been a problem all the way back from 2019 when the $100 million redevelopment happened. Can I say that I know, for example, there is at least one councillor, if not more here, that parks in a unique location when they go down to Scarborough. Now, the reason they park in that unique location is because they can't find parking. They're probably going to talk against it today, but at the same time, they never try and look for a car bay because they can't find one. So that's an interesting analogy to look at that. The other thing, the other day,
Very
I was there,
cryptic, councillor.
the other day when I was at an event down at Scarborough at lunchtime, 12 o'clock on a Sunday, believe it or not, I was driving around just past the sandbar, and there was one parking bay on the right-hand side in the indented parking. Now, there was 4 cars parked there already, facing in the opposite direction. So they were actually parked illegally. They didn't actually drive around and reverse in the way you're supposed to. And of course, I saw this bay and I got excited. I thought, oh, I found a bay. So I zipped around. By the time I came there, guess what? A car had parked illegally and driven into that bay, and now there was 5 cars parked illegally right there. I could not find a bay. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that happens all the time. Another example, and again, a couple of councillors can attest to this, we've had to catch an Uber down to Scarborough for events because, well, firstly, you can't find parking. Secondly, the congestion's crazy. Now, on one occasion when we caught an Uber, I said to the Uber driver, just pull over here on Scarborough Beach Road, not even close to West Coast Highway. I said, I'll get out from here and I'll walk because I've been there that many times. I know what's going on. The other 2 councillors stayed in the Uber. I got there faster to the destination walking than they did with the Uber. And not only that, forget about that Uber trying to find a parking bay. So it's an absolute joke that, that we can't make this simple decision right now because there is no other alternatives. We're not going to spend $10 million building a multi-storey car park. We're not going to, the options have been looked at to death. We own this piece of land. This is a temporary car park, 62 bays. Just think about how many hundreds and hundreds of bays were removed from Scarborough to allow for this massive development. And the activation that that's created. Not only that, we're hoping to get other developments happening there as well. You know, we've got the hubs there as well. You know, where are we expecting people to park? I mean, we know what the public transport situation is like. We know that this is dire straits. This piece of land is a temporary solution. It is it's probably the only solution we've got. So we've got 2 options. We can say parking down at Scarborough is not a problem. We do not need to do this. It's fine. Tell the public it's not a problem. We're going to do nothing. Because there is no plan B. There is no plan B. So it's either plan A or bad luck. And then, of course, I make sure the parking inspectors reinforce the rules to make sure nobody can park in these unique places and that they have to actually look for parking bays. So it's one of these situations where it seems obvious what the answer is. And like I said again, we have already approved this car park. It's already approved. We already said yes at a council meeting on the 5th of December. That's not up for debate. All that's up for debate here is the Public Parking Strategy Reserve. So it's not coming out of anyone else's council rates. It's coming out of the parking reserve, which is there to build parking bays. Wow. And the other thing is, let's just approve that we progress with a plan so that we get a DA. So it's a very simple solution from that point of view. And finally, Brighton Beach. People say, oh, it's too far away. Well, hold on. Brighton Beach
30 seconds.
is the busiest beach along that coastline. It's almost busier than the amphitheatre. So what people who don't go to Scarborough very often don't realise is that that entire strip is busy. So if cars park at this particular location, they will all be going to Brighton Beach. And that's, you can't get parking on that end of Scarborough. So it's not about, oh, you've got to walk 670 metres. It's no, you've got to walk a few metres to get to the beach where you want to be anyway. So unless you've got another option as to where this can be built.
Time, councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to finding out the secret location. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you so much. So I'll just begin by, contrary to what Councillor Kristovich has said, this hasn't already been approved. In fact, the motion from the December 5th meeting was for it to be put before Council for approval at a future date, and here we are with the power to approve or not approve. Now,
well, for development approval.
Now
that's right.
Point of order.
You keep going.
I mean, it has been endorsed. I mean, I'm assuming endorsed doesn't mean approved. Just point of clarification.
Yes. We get your points. Let's debate the actual item.
A re-clarification. Option 4 was endorsed over other options.
Councillor Dudek, through the chair.
The development was not approved yet. The stated reason for building this temporary car park is to improve the parking in the Scarborough Beach Tourism Precinct. Now, I don't think this will achieve this stated goal for a few reasons. Firstly, being the fact that only 62 car bays have been proposed, which won't go far enough to alleviate the problems of parking we have as Stirling's premier tourist destination, and will potentially just kick the can down the road on these issues further. Now, secondly, with the location of this car park being 700 metres from the main Scarborough precinct and more than a 10-minute walk, I have doubts that this car park will be utilised by visitors to Scarborough. I'm no behaviourologist, but I suspect it will be more frequently utilised by Brighton Beach, Brighton Road patrons, potentially residents and visitors of nearby residential complexes. In fact, our own report from 5th December 2023 states, and I quote, "Car parks are considered to be well located when within 400 metres of the activity area they relate to," which this is not. It's almost double. Finally, considering the two previous reasons stated, that it won't be utilised for Scarborough parking, and even if it were, the amount of bays is insufficient to solve the problem, I believe the cost of almost $1 million of ratepayer funds is too much to justify building this temporary car park. Now,
Councillor, I think you've got to be careful. You're talking confidential stuff out of a report.
Apologies. Now, I don't want me voting against this motion to be construed as not being serious about solving the lack of parking at Scarborough, something all councillors likely agree should be an urgent priority as it is much needed. In fact, I believe that this council would be willing to spend a larger amount if it were to be a future-proof solution and isn't just kicking the can down the road with a temporary car park. As such, I will be voting against this motion and will foreshadow it with the following, which I believe forces us to actually address both the lack of parking and the land not currently being utilised. And as is on the screen, that a report be presented to council to consider all options to increase availability of parking within the Scarborough Beach precinct, as well as opportunities for funding or collaboration from the WA State Government and Tourism WA. And two, that potential uses and opportunities for Lot 0, house number 273, West Coast Highway, Scarborough, be discussed at a future workshop with elected members prior to July 2024.
Note you're foreshadowed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Migdale, Deputy Mayor, and then I have Councillor Papard.
Thank you,
Then
Mr.
happy to
Mayor.
go over here.
Now, I'm not going to arc up or rant on for more than 60 seconds on this topic, because 60 seconds is all it should take for you to understand that parking has been an issue in Scarborough and indeed Brighton for a very long time. Nobody has suggested or is suggesting that this is going to solve all ills, all parking issues, but it will help. It certainly will help, and the cost is minimal comparatively to what it would cost to build high-rise, etc. Also noting that to look at the long-term ramifications of how we can alleviate parking issues in Scarborough may take 5, 10, goodness knows how many years. At least this is providing an opportunity for overflow parking to Scarborough and for Brighton Beach residents straight away.
60
now,
seconds.
second to that, I just did the numbers. We
definitely
may or
over
may
60
not be
seconds.
fans of paid parking right now, but let's just say we were. At 62 bays, at $2 an hour, were they to be rented out for $2 an hour for 6 hours a day, would actually equal $262,000 a year. Just to put this into perspective. Now, I'm just saying that that is the potential of 62 additional bays in the immediate area. So I would ask that alleviating the parking issue, if only by 62 bays, is part of the solution, not part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Papard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is well known and provided in our agenda, Scarborough Beach is the city's premier economic and tourism destination, and it attracts high numbers of people across the state, in fact, not just City of Stirling, and it attracts the vehicles, it attracts the people during those peak periods. That's when we have problems, not just the hot days, but when we have events. We've got a lot of events down there. How often do we have events? You've all been there. You've all been to, weekly, sometimes several times a week. I understand there's some conjecture about size, and I understand there's some disquiet about the location. about the location, and I know the car parks are not cheap to build. Now, this won't be a car park. If this won't be a car park, I ask, what will it be? What will it be? As was mentioned by Councillor Proud, it's a sandpit at the moment. We might as well use our asset there now and today, and we have an opportunity here to make a difference. More parking was in fact needed yesterday. We all know that. We all have problems, as Councillor Kristovich mentioned. Now, the location is still within the precinct. It is most definitely within that area. It would service those people enjoying Brighton Beach, sea breeze, grilled, whatever is going to be in the new Wild Fig Cafe, I don't know, the Quest apartment, the Horizon as well. I've got a friend of mine who just mentioned to me the other day couldn't go to lunch to their friend's house in Quest, because it was not enough bays around that area, and not to mention the hugely successful gym that opened up there. What's it called? Revo Fitness. In that Far East Coles car park, I can't do my daily shopping. I have to go to some other shopping centre. I appreciate most certainly the alternative recommendation. I most certainly do. However, it should not be in place of building a car park now. Parking is a work in progress, as was mentioned by the Deputy Mayor, and we need to move forward quickly. Now, in August last year, we were handed back control of Scarborough Beach. We all know that. This is an opportunity to show the community that we are listening and provide for them car park spaces where we can. And I could tell you I was door knocking. I door knocked a lot of times, a lot of places, many times last year to get myself where I am here today. And I could tell you the single biggest issue that came up was parking at Scarborough. We have an opportunity here to actually make a difference for those people. And, I had 3 people on my journeys in that campaign tell me, we go to City Beach now. I can hear you gasping.
No.
Yeah, I can. Mr. Mayor, I can hear the...
I gasped. I tried to play. I went, oh.
Is that what we want? Is that what we want? I hear it on Talkback. Ollie Peterson talks about it all the time, Parking at Scarborough, and as I said, it's an eyesore at the moment. Let's improve the amenity in the area. I know the amenity, you think, car park, but, we'll have landscaping. I know there's some comparisons over the cost of this and potentially for, other things we could use in infrastructure, but let's compare apples with apples. This it brings a lot of money into the local economy in the City of Stirling. Let's make it a difference here today. So let's listen to the community, get behind more parking, and this is what they expect, and I hope you support it.
Thank you, Councillor. I reckon that could count as your maiden speech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have Councillor Perkov, then Councillor Reid.
Oh,
and then I've got Councillor
Thank you,
Franti.
Mr. Mayor. That was a pretty good speech by Councillor Papard. I'll tell you what can we do there? What can we do? There are a million great things we can do there. If you think I want to see another, I don't know, kilometre, how many square metres of bitumen? Well, I don't. I really don't. And I don't care that 62 parking spaces will be created out of a paddock and create some bitumen. Some great community green space. A lot of beautiful stuff can be actually put there. I think I'd appreciate that a lot more, Mr. Mayor.
Just clarification. I'm pretty sure I'll get clarification from the officers, but it can't be green space.
Oh, that's a
with
good
the zone.
question. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can we do something that will create some well-being for the community instead of some bitumen?
Mr. Morellini. I've thrown him under the bus. Miss Shears. We'll go Miss Shears.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the site is zone development zone and has a potential for 8 stories, so I would suspect that would be very much an underutilisation of the site.
Keep going.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Morellini.
Something that nobody's actually mentioned in that space is you're going to have one road in and one road out, which is north. Now, we know how bad Scarborough is, very empathetic and sympathetic to that whole area. As a matter of fact, every Friday evening I go there, take my daughter swimming, and you know what? with a little bit of patience, yes, you circle around a bit, but you will find a parking spot. And I commend Councillor Kostecevich for mentioning in some sort of funny speak over there where I might park at times, but you know what, you will find space there. And you won't get pinged at the Coles car park either. One road in, one road out, it'll only go northwards. Can you imagine when they start circling that bitumen in the middle of summer and you think, oh, I'll just park there and I'll take my kid 700 metres to the pool to swim and so on. It's not going to happen. Are we trying to promote, and thank you for mentioning Revo Fitness, Councillor Papard, but isn't that what fitness is about? Just walk around Scarborough, walk to Scarborough, catch the truckless tram to Scarborough, just get around in some other manner. There are much better options. I'm absolutely going to support Councillor Dudek's foreshadowed motion on this one. I don't think this will work. I think we need to go a little bit deeper into this and find a better solution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perkoff. Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much. It's interesting that we could spend $1 million in a car park.
Councillor Reid, can we not talk about the cost, please? It's confidential.
If
I
can just
through.
point out, in the December 5th agenda, there is an estimate.
Thanks. That's right. I'm just trying to save you all.
It was actually written in the agenda.
Thanks.
It doesn't mean it's in concrete, though. I'd have to agree. I think a report needs to be done that would be probably better. But for the local people, they walk, or we catch a bus that works actually very well down Scarborough Road. I don't know if anyone's been down the bus that works that very well. And it does stop people putting in cars. And it's a very safe bus system, the Scarborough Road one. That doesn't need to be upgraded at this stage. But I don't feel that this money on a temporary car park, I mean, what are we doing it for? Someone's got something in concrete that we need to promote, or is it somebody next door to it, or are we, building for what? I just don't find that this is the answer to it. It's been on the agenda, like a lot of things that have been on the agenda, but disappear and come back. And some things are not actually approved on the agenda. They are just noted or endorsed, doesn't mean they're approved, which I agree. I can't see that there's any point in doing this unless we do a proper research. So I won't be supporting it. And for the people that actually live in the Scarborough area, which I'm one of the people, and I've walked to Scarborough and gone there many times, we're quite happy to walk there. We like to stay fit instead of getting into the gym. And for the people that need the parking, mainly they come from far away, and if you ever get on a bus, the bus is full of people because they're happy to catch a bus rather than park. And if the Uber drivers don't know where to pick you up, then that's an issue with the Uber driver and yourself. So I don't feel that this is necessary at this stage, and there's a lot of ways to address it, and we're not looking in the bigger picture to address it properly. And I think we have to be mindful that it's not our money.
Councillor Ferrante.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for the officers in regards to the other item here at TE2, which is the parking wayfinding technology. I just want to understand, why are we doing that? Can you answer that for me, please?
I'll give you a little bit of leeway here. It was an item previous, but I assume you're leading into this item, so Mr. Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the parking wayfinding tender is about us ensuring that people that visit Scarborough and surrounds and the coastal areas are able to find available parking. So it's dynamic signage, it's about the number of available bays, and it's about ensuring that people can find their way to accessible parking that is available at Scarborough.
And notify them when there's none. Councillor Ferrante.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, on that. So the people who park the wrong way can actually find their way to the car parks. That's why we have the wayfinding technology. So I think that technology will help in the parking issues more than the presumed temporary car park. And I'll be supporting the foreshadowed motion because I think it needs a better plan. This was 2019, and again, as a shortfall for 23, but thinking about this even more and the implications, I'd rather see the money reinvested in a better plan. I find that we first need to see if this technology is going to help, and if it helps streamline parking opportunities, then it's well worth it, okay? But the other one I'm not comfortable with, and I know other priorities in the business that could use that money, but I certainly am supportive of something in a bigger picture to be done. So I will be supporting the foreshadow as well.
Thanks, Councillor. Is there Councillor Hatton?
Mr. Traffic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm finding it very hard to support the recommendation, and I will be supporting the foreshadowed motion on the premise of a few points I'd like to bring forward. It is a city-owned asset. It's a very valuable asset too, 3,000 square metres. However, it is 670 metres, or thereabouts, from the main Scarborough precinct. It is only 62 bays. It's not going to solve the problem, but it never was going to solve the problem when we need up to 400 bays or more anyway to meet the shortfall since the development some years ago. The 62 bays is insufficient. I would think that we need to look at the foreshadowed motion, have a little bit more work done on this. We need to probably, as the foreshadowed motion mentions, bring in state government and federal government on this issue on one of the major tourist precincts and economic precincts in WA, in the metropolitan area. I would even think that if we did a workshop on this, we could bring main roads into it. We could maybe develop a concept plan that would be similar to the new hospital down in Thomas Street, where you can drive off into a multi-storey car park off a main road. It might sound a little bit futuristic, but it's happening now. I think we need a lot more work on this. And also, can I declare the amount of money now that it's been declared? No. That amount of money that is proposed to be spent with option 4, which is a fair amount of landscaping included too, and I'm not against landscaping. It is temporary in nature. That money could be well spent on a number of, as Councillor Rhea has mentioned, an old bowling club that's been there for 40, 50 years or more, 75.
Can I just be clear though? I know you're making a point, but this is parking reserve money that can't be spent on a club.
It is parking reserve money. I picked that point up earlier. We still have to be very considerate of the ratepayers' input into this, and when we consider the rates and where they're set and so forth, the reserves are very, very important and part of that equation too. Look, I think there needs to be more work done on this. I think it's bad economics at this stage when it's a temporary car park and it's insufficient parking, and certainly we need to really bring this state government in particular forward with the planning of the road and networks around there and get a greater understanding and more of a cooperative approach to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any other indication? If not, I will go. Councillor Giudice.
Look, I'm looking at that foreshadowed motion, and I have got some support to it. I just wanted to maybe ask a question through the chair regarding the options that may be considered if this was to get up. Is there any just early thoughts about that? I mean, I dare say there's been a lot of parking strategies done over this area. Is there any options? I mean, just for some information for us to take consideration of what that may look like.
Thank you. I would say it's probably too preliminary to talk about those, but I'm assuming that what council wants us to look at is a make-up of the rest of the precinct in terms of the other car parking, and if there was reconfiguration available or extra land that could be added on, whether we have another land holding slightly up Scarborough Beach Road that is small but could potentially be, or whether there's other land that's in more proximal, whether council have got an appetite to invest in a multi-storey car park or a development of some sort. Those sort of things would be the sort of things that would be discussed, and Mr. Morellini would probably lead that strategic sort of property make-up and the rest of it. Have you got anything to add, Mr. Morellini? You don't have to, I was just...
Through the chair, not in terms of making reserve land, but in terms of options, that's covered most of it. The other is you could seek an acquisition of a property in a proximity and location that works better and more suited for parking. We could work within the reserve land that we have existing with the state government, but that might be a bit of a far stretch. And road reserves obviously allow that opportunity, and then equally working with developers from the DA side of point of view to actually assist in delivering parking as well. Thank you.
And the only other thing, Councillor Giudice, I can think of is, approaching landowners of vacant sites, those sort of things. Thank you. So we'll go to Councillor Proud now to close.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. With every person that spoke, I've added another point in. First of all, initially, this was adopted in July 2019. Most of you, a lot of you weren't even here then. This has been picked up. Have a look at the resolutions that have been done on this actual site since on page 105. Just have a look, just do yourselves a favour. We have talked this to death. I keep hearing about 727 metres from here, whatever. Well, how far is it to City Beach? Why don't you put the meterage in from there? It's about 50 metres from Peace Home Dog Beach. It's about, I don't know, 5 metres, get out of your car and you're already at Brighton Beach. I mean, it's a long way from South Geraldton, for sure. Putting all those little measurements in, trust me, 400 metres is the walkable distance for state government planning and our planning, and we have to have a park within 400 metres of walking distance of absolutely every person in the city of Stirling. I mean, 10 minutes or 20 minutes walk. You know, you're talking about fitness and then you're killing the idea about walking because it's too far. I mean, give me a break. There is a bonus with this too, and I'll add it in because everyone else is adding in new information. If and when we do sell this land, it's appreciating all the time, remember that. It's appreciating in financial value every single day. So, don't have to cross your fingers, Mr. Mayor. It's certainly appreciating as we speak. It will only grow in value. And we'll get offered some mad price for it down the track, and it will have served a very good purpose in that time as car parking. Okay, we're really sorry it's not 7,000 car bays that we can provide down there. That is left up to the development that have to put in car parking for developments that happen in Scarborough. Now, don't blame the council for the lack of parking. There's been a different planning control for the last, since 15, whatever, for the last 5-7 years. They're the ones that have made those decisions. It's generally, for any development down there, it's JDAP that are making the decisions and allowing a shortfall in car parking. It's certainly not the city's fault. We are just picking up the slack and trying to do something. Councillors, don't overthink this. This is making an excellent use of a city asset while it's appreciating in value. It just doesn't get any better than this. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, that does close a very lively debate. Thank you, councillors. And I will put that item to the vote now, noting that there is a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Dudek. Thank you, councillors, and that is lost. So we have 4 councillors, Kristovich, Migdal, Papard, Proud, Thornton and myself, and against Councillor Crowdo, Dudek, Ferrante, Judici, Hatton, Lagan, Olo, Perkov and Ree. I will now go to the foreshadowed motion. Councillor Dudek, your motion, you've already read it out. I'm happy if you just say that's foreshadowed.
I'd like to move the motion as written on the screen.
And a seconder, Councillor Perkov, I'm sure will be happy to. He's very supportive previously. Councillors, I don't think we need to debate this. Are you happy just to put this to the vote? It's fairly obvious. And we'll put the foreshadowed motion to the vote. And as expected, that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors, and thank you for your debate. I will now go to the balance of reports. Councillor Proud, would you like to move the balance?
I'll move the balance of the planning and development.
And is there a seconder for those? Councillor Lagan is happy to second. I will put those to the vote. The balance of reports. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So members of the gallery and those people who are watching at home, please note that the Planning and Development Committee recommendations have all now been adopted by exception resolution. Takes us to item 13, reports for consideration in accordance with section 4.24 of the meeting procedures, local law 21. First one of those, 13.1, the City of Stirling annual report, absolute majority vote required. Do I have a mover of a motion? Councillor Lagan.
Move the officer's recommendation and thank the officers for an excellent report.
Thank you. And Councillor Kristovich has seconded those. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor Ree, you're opposed or you got a question? Just opposed? Yep, if you've got a question, I'll allow it.
I'd like to know, with regard to our sustainability strategy and also to the fact that it's a big document to download from people. This is 2 questions raised by ratepayers to me. Is one, that there's so many big A4 pictures in it, throughout it, that it takes ages to download. Why is there so many pictures, which I have no answer to. And secondly, was the question why is there so many pictures that when they try to print it out bits and pieces, they can't, whatever. And so I would question that. That would be, and I know that's a...
So the simple one is it's a standard of current reporting, and obviously it also makes it look nice, and it's been recognised in the Australasian Reporting Awards 9 times, up for its 10th this year. But I'll just get some advice, because I'm pretty sure we should be able to have a simplified one online. Ms Wollstonecroft, is it possible to have cut it down online so people don't have to print out the full version? Or
Through you,
download?
Mr. Mayor. Well, we do put the full version online, and it is a really not a large format, so it doesn't take too long to download. It's very quick, and we also have a quick page view through it on the website. You can just print 1 page per time if you select that through your printer.
Yep.
You can do that.
So, but I'm sure in future years we can investigate having a shortened version for those who want a summary version, if those who want to download.
I don't think I can recall in the past having so many big photographs in it, and that's for certain people who aren't here but regulars.
So your next question?
But so many A4. So to me, that doesn't do our sustainability thing any good. On page 83, where we talk about the integrity panel, is that just referring to councillors, or is it councillors and staff?
Mr Blanchard?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The integrity panel is comprised of 3 staff members, being the Manager of Governance, Manager of HR and Internal Auditor, and it assesses all allegations of serious misconduct made against staff or elected members.
Councillor Reid, you got another question?
So that would, sorry, who was the third one? Manager, HR, Manager of Governance and Manager...
Internal Auditor.
Oh, that's right, the Internal Auditor. So that would be that. So the question I got asked of me was where was Councillor Sargent in this? And I said, I don't know. Why would that not be a reportable thing?
Councillor Reid, I would suggest let's stick to the item on the agenda. There's nothing to report. The councillor resigned.
Okay, that's the question I got asked. The other one was, page 57.
Councillor Reid, are any of these actually relating to the annual report, or are they just side issues?
They're in the report. That's
But
why I'm
there's
quoting pages.
the whole of the year's activities are in the report.
Well, I quoted pages when I asked the question. Sorry if you didn't hear me. With the page 57, where do team leaders come in? I did ask once before about having a breakdown of where the staff and that are. We're just that, where do team leaders fit into this?
When this was sent out a few weeks ago for councillors to comment and ask questions, did you send any of these in or go through with any?
I did ask previously about having an organisational structure at a council meeting.
So you've already had responses to these questions?
No,
is what
I didn't get a response.
So what is your question with this? You would want the whole organisational chart in there?
No. I'm just saying that you've got corporate services, you've got chief executive, governance. One would say they were managers, safety. Do we do a breakdown? I don't know. That was just the question I got asked.
Well, that's what we do. So if you've got another opinion on it, you could send that in when it's sent out for comment.
Oh, well, I do know. Well, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no debate on this item, then I'll put the item. Thank you, councillors. That is carried with all councillors voting for, Councillor Reid voting against the annual report. Can I just make a quick comment and just congratulate Manager of Strategy and Performance, Michelle Wollstonecroft, and the team. Ingrid Hawkins and your team. I know you have massive input, and to a new CEO Stev and all the directors of the city and your teams who provide such incredible input into this. It is, you know, when you actually sit back and look at an annual report, and not only the requirements through the auditing, the content that needs to be produced, but also the format that needs to be required to be at the top standard. It is an incredible amount of work, and I know sometimes when it sits in a printed document you think, is it worth it? But I think year on year for the last 9 years, and this year I'm sure it's entered, and the city's very hopeful, has been rewarded again by the top body, Australasian Reporting Awards, as a leader in the sector. So last year it actually received the best in local government in Australasia. And that is a quality of reporting, and it's something that this city should be really proud of in terms of the transparency and accountability that is provided in this report. So well done to the team. I will now ask Mr. Roddick if you'd like to step out. The CEO stepping out as this is regarding the recruitment process, but it is purely about the process. So I will ask for a mover of the recommendation, noting that Mr. Roddick has left the room. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation on page 128, but I have 3 questions.
Sure, and Councillor Hatton has seconded that. Is there anyone opposed just before you go? No, in that case, I'll allow the questions.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just 3 quick questions. The first point discusses the officer recruitment in accordance with the model standards. My first question is, did the city establish a new CEO contract in terms with the public sector standard that gives a longevity of the contract at an end date of 10 years with a possibility of reappointment?
Thank you. Mr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city is not bound by the public sector standards. It's bound by the Local Government Act. The maximum term of a local government CEO contract is 5 years.
Councillor Lagan.
Yep, okay, thank you. Second question, is the CEO contract, the new CEO contract, a quarantine contract?
Mr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that to be, is it a preserved CEO contract under the Local Government Act? The answer to that is no.
Thank you. And my final question is, did the city use the Walga template A or a different template?
Mr. Blanchard.
Whilst the city commenced with the template, the negotiation of a contract is between the 2 parties involved, and so it wasn't the exact template that was finally endorsed by council in agreement with the CEO. It was the template as varied by council and the CEO.
Yep. Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you. If there's no one opposed, then I will put this item. Move Councillor Lagan, seconded Councillor Hatton. Thank you, and that is unanimous. And if we can ask Mr. Roddick to come back in the room. Also, I think it's appropriate to note, if we can congratulate our Manager of Governance and the rest of the governance team, Jackson Esquire, as we call him, the support of the governance team during the recruitment of the CEO, honestly, was second to none. From the organisation, it was commented by the recruiter, actually, it was actually the best preparation and experience the recruiter said they'd had within any recruitment of a CEO across all sectors. So congratulations to all of you for your support and the work you did to ensure that we got the best outcome. Speaking of which, here he is. Mr. Roddick is back with us. I'll now go to item 14, notice of motion for consideration. 14.1, proposed notice of motion, former Councillor Felicity Farrelly. Who's carrying the can? I'll go to you, Councillor Papard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hoping this isn't my valedictory speech. At this point, I'm happy to move the motion for the officer's alternative recommendation.
Thank you. That's all we need. Is there a seconder for that motion? That was a short one. Good. Seconded, Councillor Kristovich. Is there anyone opposed to this? Good. Then I will put this to the vote, noting that Councillor Rhea has left the chamber. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Can I just mention, sorry, through governance, I'm not sure if Councillor Ree was here for the last vote. So I don't know if anyone was watching. Yeah, it was an electronic vote, so if it was...
Distracted.
No, so I will just note for that previous previous item, so we're back to 13.2. It's only I said it was a unanimous vote. It was unanimous noting that Councillor Ree had already left the chamber. Oh, sorry, sorry, you're circling the 14 for that one. Yeah, so she was here for the vote, so it was unanimous. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that that's on record as correct. We'll go to item 14.2, proposed notice of motion from Councillor Proud.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I would generally go with the officer's alternative. However, in this case, I need to be firm. I would prefer to go through with the one that I originally wrote on page 140 with the reasons outlined
Sure.
right there.
That are be presented to the council on the installation of the barbecue facilities for the below parks in the next budget process.
For the three.
And I've got a seconder from Councillor Kristovich. It's clear what you want. Is there anyone opposed? Good question.
Just as a question, do we have a cost estimate? I mean, I assume that will come in budget processes anyway.
Yeah, so no, it's not even through the budget. So council's asking for a report purely to be presented to council outlining all that. So what you're doing is you're not approving 3 barbecues or anything like that. You're just approving a report to come back with all that stuff in it. If there's no one opposed, I'll put that to the vote. Thank you. And that, we've got 2 more. We've got Councillor Thornton. That's it. And that is unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Item 15, notice of motion for consideration at the next meeting. Councillors, do you have any notice of motions that you'd like to raise? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sure do. And I can't really see it from here. That a sign be erected at Medham's Pool requesting visitors to refrain from walking on the reef. The reason is our natural environment should be protected wherever possible, and a gentle reminder may assist in achieving the objective.
I think we'll have an addition that Deputy Mayor stands next to the sign and reminds people. Yes. All right, are there any other notice of motions that you'd like to put forward this evening? No? Questions by members of which due notice has been given of. Neil, new business of an urgent nature. Neil, matters behind closed doors. I have Neil. Well done, councillors, on an entertaining meeting. That brings us to item 19, which is closure, and I declare the council meeting closed at 8:08 p.m. Thank you to those people in the gallery who are still here, and good night to the viewers at home.